Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhattavrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. One quick thing, Rasika, I don't know if it's meant to be like this, but I'm seeing you. I'm not seeing anyone else on the screen. Is it meant to be like that? I'm seeing you. I guess others are seeing you. No, what others are seeing, so I can't say. But I'm only.
You've changed it on your side. I don't know. Let me check.
Pardon? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Anyway, no problem. Maybe that's the way it is. Oh, I've got it. Yeah, you're right. My assistant's not here, so just a button press. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Nandi. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be continuing with our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 25. I think it's 22 today. And we'll be going straight from this class, more or less, into another Zoom class for devotees in Singapore. And so you're welcome to stay on board if you wish. It will go through till at least 12, well, I don't know the time where you are, but at least 12:30 here in France. So that's like 2.5 hours from now, at least. Jai, Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Balalabha Girivardhari, Gopijana Balalabha Girivardhari, Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, 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 Yaona Tira Vanachari, Tira Vanachari, Yauna Tira Vanachari, Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janava Girivardha Gopi Janava Girivardha Jaya Gopi Janava Girivardha Gopi Janava Girivardha Yasodanandana Prajaja Sodananda Vrajajana Amuna Kira Anashati Amuna Kira Anashati Jayarata Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtataya Satishita A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sigaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Vana Maya Ki Tulsi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Lord Chaitanya's Hari Ram Sankirtanam Ki Jai Madanga Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Go Premanandi Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Grand Robust Shri Prabhupada. There's some light to dark.
It's too much to feel.
Okay. We'll survive. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 22. Please repeat. Ananyena bhavena
Ananyena Bhavena
bhaktim
Bhaktim
kurvanti
Kurvanti
ye vidam matkite
Matkrite
Shakta
Yatta
Karmanaha
Karmanaha
Shakta
Yatta
Svajana
Svajana
Bandavaha
Bandava
Mayananyena Bhavena
Mayananyena Bhavena
Bhaktim Kurvanti Ye Vidam
Bhaktim Kurvanti Yedridam
Matkrite Shakta Karmanas
Matkrite Yakta Karmana
Shakta Svajana Bandavaha
Yakta Svajana Bandava
Mayananyena Bhavena
Mayananyena Bhavena
Bhaktim Kurvanti Ye Vidam
Bhaktim Kurvanti Yedridam
Matkrite Shakta Karmanas
Matkrite Yakta Karmana
Shakta Svajana Bandavaha
Yakta Svajana Bandava
Mai
Mai
unto me
unto me
Ananyena Bhavena
Ananyena Bhavena
with undeviated mind
with undeviated mind
Bhaktim
Bhaktim
devotional service
devotional service
Kuravanti
Kurvanti
perform Yea those who
those
Dridham
who Vedam
staunch
Stone
Matkrite
Matkrite
for my sake
for my sake
Chakta
Chakta
renounced
Renounce
Karmanaha
Karmana
activities
activity
Chakta
Chakta
renounced
Renounce
Svajana
Svajana
family relationships
family relations
Bandavaha
Bandavaha
friendly acquaintances.
friendly acquaintance
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation for the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. A person in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, is called a sadhu because he renounces everything: his home, his comfort, his friends, his relatives, and his duties to friends and family. He renounces everything for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sannyasi is generally in the renounced order of life, but his renunciation will be successful only when his energy is employed in the service of the Lord with great austerity. It is said here, therefore, Bhaktim Karvanti Ebridam, a person who seriously engages in the service of the Lord and is in the renounced order of life is a sadhu. A sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in the world, a person has so many responsibilities and obligations to the public, to the demigods, to the great sages, to the general living beings, to his parents, to the family forefathers, and to many others. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. But if for sense gratification a person renounces all such obligations, he's punished by the law of nature. And that's the end of the purport to this verse, text 22. But these purports never really end. We're going to sing a song today, which is very close to this verse, a song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this song is called Manasa Deho Geho. So I hope that Rasikananda Prabhu, you have the song. Here it is. We'll try to sing it. It's a beautiful song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But first, I did ask you to put the translation maybe. But if you can put the translation first, please, if possible. Okay, here we go. How similar it is. Mind, body, and family, whatever may be mine, I have surrendered at your lotus feet, O youthful son of Nanda. Now, this is not just a physical thing. A sadhu is one who is surrendered. In the verse which we're reading today, is interesting. There are two main features of today's Bhagavatam verse. As in many cases, in every situation, you can find two major characteristics. One is the intrinsic nature of a subject, and the other is that which we see according to our condition. Sometimes this is described as Svarup and Tatastha. Svarup meaning the constitutional nature of a person, of a subject, even of a verse. And the Tatastha are the effectual characteristics. They're marginal. They may be manifest sometimes and not manifest sometimes. They may be seen according to our particular perspective. And they may, whatever, but they're marginal. Secondary, sometimes described as secondary characteristics. Just like we have a famous verse, Anyam Vilasita Shunyam Gyana Kamajinavatamana Kulina Krishnanam Shilinam, that their primary characteristic is one's unflinching devotion, favorable devotional service to the Lord. The secondary characteristics are those which manifest, in this particular case, in relationship to one's present condition. That one has no more interest in the path of jnana, yoga, karma, etc. Devotional service is devoid of those characteristics. In of themselves, although they may be seen within as like secondary servants of the primary characteristic of devotion. Similarly, in the verse today, we have primary and secondary. If you you can't look at everything at once, but if you've got your book in front of you, you'll see the first line. My anyanyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye gridam. And that's the primary characteristic. The second one, the second line is matvite jakta karmanas jakta svajana bandhava, which is the secondary characteristic, is what Prabhupada is talking about. And this verse here is also talking about, is giving up. One gives up one's contacts or one's attachments, we should say, really, to family, society, friendship, and love of this world. And one gives that up. They may be there, but one is not, you can say, depending on that, one has no mundane attraction or affection of such. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. One doesn't give them up entirely, but one sees everything in relationship with Krishna. Yukta Viraga Uchite. One gives up the mentality. That is the real challenge. Giving up the physical is one thing. Giving up the internal, how we see the thing, how we're attached. Krishna describes that those who externally stop material activities as such, but internally are still attached to such sense gratification. The objects of the senses are considered to be pretenders and fools, foolish. In a foolish mentality, one has to actually develop the real detachment within by becoming attached. It's not just about giving up family life. That's a secondary thing. It's about becoming attached. Mai anyanyena bhavena, undeviated mind, bhaktim, devotional service. They perform kuravanti. They perform undeviated devotional service, fixed in mind, bhavena. Ananya bhakti. This word ananya is a very common word in the Bhagavad Gita also. This fixed devotion. We'll talk about that later on. But today, because Prabhupada is primarily discussing the tatastha lakshana, the secondary characteristics of a sadhu, which is that he has no more interest in material life. His only interest is in pure devotional service, and the effect that he has no more interest in trying to enjoy the effects of this world, whether they come in the form of family members, in the form of wealth, in the form of facilities, in the form of material sense gratification, on whatever levels on. The sadhu has no interest in that. Such a person is able to awaken within us also, not just a disinterest in material pursuit, but an interest in the pursuit for the Swarup Lakshana, or the eternal spiritual relationship with the Supreme Lord. So we have to have that higher thing, otherwise we can't really get free of the lower. So we'll just finish this purport, then sing the song. Mind, body, and family, whatever may be mine, I have surrendered at your lotus feet. Because they don't belong to us, although it says mine. This mentality of mine, actually everything belongs to Krishna. The actual surrender is the realization that everything belongs to Krishna, nothing is mine. And everything should thus be used for his pleasure. It's his property, should be used for his pleasure. In good fortune or in bad, in life or death, all my difficulties have disappeared by choosing those feet of yours as my only shelter. And of course, we're trying to fix devotional service. Slay me or protect me as you wish, for you are the master of your eternal servant. If it is your will that I be born again, then may it be in the home of your devotee. May I be born again, even as a worm, so long as I remain your devotee. I have no desire to be born as a Brahman, averse to you. I yearn for the company of that devotee who is completely devoid of all desire for worldly enjoyment or liberation. Father, mother, lover, son, lord, preceptor, and husband, you are everything to me. Thakur Bhaktivinoda says, O Kana, please hear me, O Lord of Radha. You are my life and soul. The beautiful song which we'll try to sing. Giving everything to the Lord, not just renunciation. Maybe sometimes it's there because of suffering, maybe it's there because of a little bit of an understanding. But the renunciation of a sadhu is not some, let's say, external adjustment. It's simply that sadhu is just so absorbed in anyena bhakti, ananya bhakti, in fixed ananya bhavena in the verse today, with mind fixed, unflinching, uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord. There is no time, there is no thought of anything else. Everything is for Krishna. Monasadeho geho yokichumo apilu tuapade nanda kisho Monasadeho geho yokichumo Apilatu apade nanda kisho sampade vipade ivana madane sampade vipade ivane marane Jai Mama Gela Tua O Pada Parani Jai Mama Gela Tua O Pada Parani Arobil Bira Kobido Vichato Hara Maravira Kovido Vichato Hara Nitya Dasaprati Duadika Nitya Dasaprati Duadika Jamayo Bimo Echa Jarito Jamayo Bimo Echa Jarito Akagi Hejan Nijan Bhakte kriye jani janma ayo Ita janma jata tuvadata Ita janmiha jata tuvadata Sahe mukha brahmachane anayat Sahe mukha brahmachane anayat Mukti mukti sriha vihina jay bhakta Mukti mukti sriha Vihinaye bhakta labhai cheta kosangam anuragha labhai cheta kosangam anuragha janaka janani jaita tainai Janaka Janani Taitatanai Prabhu Gurapati Tuhu Sarvaman Prabhu Gurapati Tuhu Sarvaman Bhakati Vinoda Kohe Shunokana Tumo Manata Devo Devo Yoki Tumo Apil Tu Apade Madati Shoda Apil Tu Apade Madati Shoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Hare Krishna, Hare Bo, Jai. I'm going to read. There's a very interesting verse now. This is from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 5, text 41. And it's a verse which is very much in line with Srila Prabhupada's purport today. It's quite a famous verse. Devarshi bhutaptanvinam pitvinam nakin koronayam vinicharajan sarvatmanayak sharanam sharanyam Kato mukundam pariritya kartam. This was spoken by Narada Muni. He's giving instructions to Vasudeva. O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, the great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away, since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. One who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. We have so many, you could say, we may not look at it like that. We take it for granted. We accept things as just being there, but they're not just there by chance. Everything's provided by Krishna, devotees know that. But it comes through various other living entities. We're indebted to, of course, the material nature itself. We're indebted to those who've, in our previous families, who've, provided the various facilities, etc., with which we are born into. And what to speak of the demigods, the devas, who are providing all the various aspects of this material world in the form of rain and wind and air and so many things, everything practically speaking. Other creatures, other living entities providing food or our food for us. They're actually, their bodies are the food which we eat. We're dependent, we're actually indebted to them. We're eating their bodies. And so many other living entities. Everything, even the material nature itself in its different form, we're indebted. But we take it for granted. We don't pay our debts. And that's why people suffer in this world, because they're not paying their debts. Okay, there's the karma kanda, prayaschita, where people, they perform some religious activities. All these religious activities are meant to help us pay our debts in this world. Prabhupada writes, well, no, it's not Prabhupada in that case. It's Vidayananda Maharaj or devotees. One who has not fully surrendered to the devotional service of the Lord undoubtedly has many material duties to perform. Every ordinary conditioned soul is the recipient of innumerable benefits given by all other living entities, even the moon and the sun, the wind, food, everything, even one's own body. And we're indebted. We receive our body from our mother and father. We have so many debts to pay. And we see in the Bhagavad Gita, if you read in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text number 12, you see there, Krishna says, if you don't offer these, in return, we're receiving everything from the demigods. If we don't perform sacrifice in return, then we're considered a thief, a stena. We're a thief. And basically, everyone in this world is in that mood of being a thief. They don't know how to offer sacrifice. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very nice verse in the 11th canto, chapter 20, text 9. Tavat karmani kurvita, nur nevidyeta yavata, madkata shravanado va, shraddha yavan jayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruit of activity, has not awakened his taste for devotional service by hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, one has to act according to regulated principles of the Vedic injunctions. That refers to everyone, unless we've actually given up this aspiration to enjoy any aspect, gross or subtle, of this material world, and unless and until we're completely absorbed in hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, then we have to act according to certain regulated principles given in the Vedas, whatever they may be. This is the general system. There's a nice verse in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, 84th chapter, text 39. The sages are speaking to Yudhisthira. Dear Prabhu, a member of the twice-born classes is born with 3 kinds of debts. Those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to his forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifices, studying the scriptures, and begetting children, he will fall down into a hellish condition. I doubt whether many people are even aware of this, but this is the situation. This is why we're experiencing such a hellish condition right now in this material. We may see it differently, but actually we're living in a hellish situation because people are not liquidating their debts. We may also have to ask ourselves, what are we doing about it? People have no idea. Performing sacrifices, studying the scriptures, and begetting children. According to the Manu Samhita, we're born with 4 debts, 3 debts plus 1 more. Yes, we have debts to the great sages and saintly persons. That's for sure, who are giving us knowledge. We have debts to anyone who gives us anything, even materially speaking, although that may be just a karmic thing. And just by paying that debt doesn't release us necessarily from too much of our circle, but we still have to do it. We receive studies from school, we receive from the teacher, and then we have our family members and the demigods, those 3 already mentioned. But there's also debts to mankind and other living entities. And the debts to the sages are to pay those debts by penance and study. Now, they have to be according to the Vedic scriptures, not according to our mental concoctions. So we pay our debts to the sages by study and penance. This isn't the ordinary course of life for those who are not fully surrendered to Krishna. To our ancestors, we pay our debts by having progeny, having children, especially a son. And to the gods by performing sacrifices, as we hear from the Bhagavad Gita. We have to perform sacrifices. Even if we have no knowledge of the Supreme Being, still those who are lesser intelligent must perform sacrifices for the service of the gods, the demigods, the devas. And for mankind in general and other living entities, we have to pay our debt there by being hospitable. Welcoming is a Vedic injunction that even one's enemy, one welcomes them like one's friend. And by prasadam distribution in its various forms, according to the circumstance, distributing mercy to other living entities, particularly in the form of prasadam. These ways, we can pay our debts, which we're born with. Whether we like it or not, we're all debtors. We may think otherwise, but actually every living entity in this material world is a debtor, unless they fully surrender to Krishna. So life is meant according to the Vedic injunctions. We pay our debts properly. Even in ordinary society, we have to know how to pay the debt. We don't say, for instance, you owe somebody $1,000 whatever dollars. And you say, okay, I'm not going to give them $1,000. I'm going to give them something which I think is worth $1,000. That will satisfy them. They may not want what we think that they was worth $1,000. We have to do it properly. The Vedic scriptures teach us how to do it properly. It's not a concoction. It's not based upon how I want to do it. Okay, I'll study some mundane literature, Harry Potter or something, but that's not what it means. Or performing penance so that I can get more sense gratification, yes. Having children like cats and dogs, no, like that. That's not what it means. Or just distributing ordinary food also, something is there, but not just distributing food which will cause disturbance to people's lives, meat and this and that. So these 4 debts are to be paid. Otherwise, the conditioned soul is a thief. And he's going to be punished and suffer, as we've just heard, hellish experiences. Now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, of course, most people also, those who are on the spiritual path, those who have any kind of, let's say, belief that there is some debt to pay, there is something higher. Generally speaking, people are not thinking that by paying my debts, then I can move on to a higher level of existence. Most people are paying them so they don't have to suffer. They're not paying it so that now I'm free and I can move forward in life. In a spiritual sense, it's usually a material feature. And they, generally speaking, to fulfill their material desires, these pious people, they tend to look towards material solutions. Paying material debts is one thing, but that doesn't bring one to the spiritual platform. It just facilitates us. So we have less baggage, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yesha Papam, Janana Punya Karmanam, that those who are freed of their sinful reactions, who have acted piously in this life as well as in previous lives, who are freed of the duality of pollution, can engage in my devotional service with determination. So it can be useful. But in of itself, this paying us prayaschitta of various kinds is not going to give us pure devotional service. It may be necessary, you could say, or beneficial to facilitate our devotional service, but in of itself it is not devotional service. And usually such people, as soon as they pay their debts, they go back again. It's like going to prison or whatever. Prisoner comes out and he carries on with his materialistic activities. So generally speaking, that's what happens, although unless one's very fortunate to meet a sadhu. The secret is the sadhu. The sadhu makes everything transcendental. And whatever it is, whether it's sacrifice, whether it's family life, whether it's study and penance, whether it's hospitality. So the sadhu makes everything and transforms everything to the transcendental platform. So let's just read a verse in the 2nd canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 3. It's an interesting verse. It's quite long. I don't know if I'm not going to read it all, I don't think. Okay, here we go. One who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma or Brihaspati. One who desires powerful sex should worship the king Indra. One who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, or the superintendent of the material world. One desiring to be very powerful should worship fire. One who aspires after money only should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnation of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi. One who desires a worldly kingdom should worship Vishvadev. And one who wants to be popular with a general mass of population should worship the Sajja demigods. This is the 3rd canto, by the way, text 2 to 7. 3rd chapter, 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, text 2 to 7. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as Ashwini Kumaras. Person desiring a strongly built body should worship the earth. One who desires stabilization in his post should worship the horizon and the earth combined. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. And one who desires a good wife should worship the Apsaras and the Urvashi society girls of the heavenly kingdom. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead. And one who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. If one desires to be a greatly learned man, he should worship Lord Shiva. And if one desires a good marital situation, he should worship the chaste goddess Uma, wife of Lord Shiva. Well, I hope you're not all going to now start looking at how I can worship this one and that one and try to achieve a wealthy situation, a strong body, a long life, a beautiful wife, nice marital situation, nice sons, good education, and so on and so forth. Some people would, but that's not the mood of a devotee. We have to give up this separatist mentality. Even in devotional service, there may be a separatist mentality, thinking, what can I get out of Krishna consciousness? What's in it for me? Spiritually, okay, but not materially. And it goes on. There's very beautiful how one should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement of knowledge and for protection of heredity and advancement of the dynasty. One should worship the different demigods. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons. One who desires sense gratification should worship the moon, but one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have no more desire for all of these things. Well, even if we do desire those things, Narada Muni recommends Akama Sarva Kamava Moksha Kama Udavadi Tivena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham. A person who has broader intelligence, who may be full of all material desire, or maybe without any material desire, and who also desires liberation, by all means must worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. So whatever it is, he's still recommending best thing. Why? Because Krishna will fulfill our real desires. And even if we have all these other desires, the dangerous thing is if we worship Krishna, he may take away all these other desires, all these other aspirations. This is the meaning of Sarvadharma Parityagya Mamekam Sharanam. Give up all these other religious pursuits and surrender unto me. Now, of course, we may not be wanting to do that. We're still attached in so many different ways, but Krishna is very merciful. For his devotee, he takes things away which are actually obstacles on our path of pure devotion. So we can come to Ananya Bhakti, Ananya Bhavena, that we can be fixed in a devotional service to him. As long as we're aspiring for these other things, whether we're worshipping Krishna or not worshipping Krishna, whether we're worshipping demigods or just trying separately to achieve these material objectives, we cannot engage in pure devotion. As long as we're too much attached to sense enjoyment, material opulence, etc., we cannot engage in devotional service with determination. It's not possible. So Krishna is very kind. He arranges situations in our life. There are many verses which describe this, which are specifically for removal of these other objectives, or let's say achievement of success in life by going to others besides him. This is Krishna's mercy. We may think that he's a jealous God, very self-centered, but that's how God is. He's the center of everything. Yes, everything's meant for that purpose. And he wants us to be connected with him for our benefit, for his benefit. So he takes away all these other things. At least he does his part. We may hang on strongly to everything else around us. And then the next verse, all the different kinds of worshippers, multi-demigods, can attain the highest perfection of benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, spontaneous, fixed attraction for the Supreme Lord, by unflinching spontaneous, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by association with the pure devotees of the Lord or the sadhus. It's only by association with the sadhus that we can actually fully satisfy all of the soul's actual desires. Material achievement only temporarily satisfies the soul. It's only pure devotion service. Savaipam Sankaro Dhamma Yatopaktir Hokshide Vitikipatita Yatma Suprasidati. It's only devotional service, or that practice, the topmost practice, Savaipam Sankaro Dharma, topmost activity, which completely satisfies. That service has to be a hoitikiya patiyata. That means it is without any material motivation whatsoever. So these verses, to touch the Lakshana of today's verse, the marginal characteristics, are deeper than just an external renunciation. They're internal. Ahitiki, patiyata, unmotivated. It means without any self-centered motivation. We have to cultivate the motivation of doing what we're doing for the pleasure of Krishna. And how else can we do that without the association of sadhus? They teach us how to do it. Everything in our life is like that, whether it's daily worship, preaching. Can we shut the window? It's very noisy. Or there's a lot of things going on here at New Mayapur. Devotees are cutting the grass and cutting wood, planting things, cleaning things. What else are we doing here? Digging things, building things, breaking things. Devotees are very busy here. I hope they are fully engaged in farming and repair work and so on. Anyway, the real thing is this ahoitaki without this material motivation. It's very deep. That's the hard one. We may look really good on the surface. We may be doing 24 hours. But what is a motivation? That's what's to be seen. The motivation, the attitude, which has to be cleansed. And it's the association of sadhus. The sadhus, they cut this out in various ways. Krishna in the heart, but particularly the saintly persons. And because they have no ulterior motive. They're Nivita Krishna. They have no material motivation. And it's important we hear from those Nivita Krishna. Upagiyamana, Baboshti Chotamanobhima. They can cure us of that disease if we follow their instruction, if we associate with the sadhu. Sadhus may chastise us sometimes. We don't like it. When our inner attachments or whatever it is are shown up, then that's sometimes a little bit painful. But this is the mercy of the sadhu. Now we're going to read something very nice also. Sometimes people criticize us, criticize the devotees. We deserve, at least I do, deserve to be criticized. But sometimes these pure devotees who have no material affection, they only have attachment to the Supreme Lord and devotion to Him. And they're criticized. What are you doing? What's the use of what you're doing? You've given up all your responsibilities. This is a useless person. Hopeless, waste of time. There's a nice story. I remember this story a little bit. I don't know if I can remember. I haven't enacted. We did a drama on this a few times. It's called Mahamurkha. Some of you have seen it or heard it. Mahamurkha means a great fool. A great fool. One time there was this sadhu who'd renounced the material world, and he was just chanting and hearing about Krishna, living in a forest somewhere. And there was this one king. He was a proud fellow, very attached to his position. He thought the goal of life was material advancement, etc. So he was traveling one day, days of yore when people used to ride on horses, on his horse with his assistant, and they're traveling around the kingdom, checking everything out. And he saw this sadhu from a distance. Maybe he didn't see many sadhus in his kingdom. And he said to his minister, "Who's that guy over there? What's he doing? He doesn't look like he's doing anything." "Oh," he said, "he's just a lazy fool. He just does nothing. He just sits here all day long doing nothing. Useless guy." And the king said, "There are such people in my kingdom?" "Oh, my lord, you don't know. There's too many of these fools. They're all over the..." "Really? Oh." Okay, the king said, let's have a wager then. You go around the kingdom and see, I've given you one nice gold coin. You go around the kingdom and you ask everyone, are you the greatest fool? Are you? So he went around, the minister went, nobody would accept the title. He said, whoever is declared the greatest fool will get this nice gold coin. There you go, see, you find the Mahamurkha, the greatest fool in the kingdom. So the minister was going around, he was getting frustrated. Nobody wanted to declare themselves the greatest fool, or whatever they were. They wouldn't say, I'm not the greatest fool. But he came to this sadhu eventually. The minister reached that same sadhu and said, hello, I've got a question. The king is asking, are you the greatest fool? And the sadhu said, oh yes, I'm the greatest fool. Oh, really? The minister was really pleased. I found the greatest fool. It was this guy after all. So he said, look, I've got a gift for you. Okay, what's that? Here, take this. The king has sent this to be given to the greatest fool in the kingdom. And you are qualified. Here you go, you Mahamurkha. And he gave him the gold coin. The sadhu just picked it up and threw it in the bin. God, this guy really is the greatest fool. They're just giving him a gold coin. And he's just thrown it in the garbage. The minister went back to the king and said everything. Those foolish sadhus. Yeah. And this guy particularly is the greatest of the fools. So time went on, and the king was getting old, and he's lying there, and gradually he's coming to his deathbed, lying in his bed. Everyone's lying around him. You know, the ministers, his wife, and so many persons all trying to console him in his dying condition. He's lying there groaning, oh, save me. What am I going to do? Who's going to look after this? Who's going to look after that? How's the kingdom going to carry on? What about my children, my wife? He's really, suffering, lamenting, because he's very, very much attached to the materialistic advancement. So he said, one thing I would like to do, my dear minister, please call all the citizens one by one so that I can see them all before I die. So one by one, all the citizens came to see him, to pay their last respects to the dying king. And the king was crying, seeing all of his faithful citizens. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, who should turn up there as one of his citizens? Mahamurkha arrived. The Mahamurkha arrived. Oh no, what are you doing here, you fool? He said, he said, I've come to see you at this time of death, my sir. Why are you looking so miserable? What's wrong with you? You fool, the king said. Don't you know I'm dying? Dying? Well, what's wrong? Why are you so miserable? You have a kingdom. You have all the wealth you could ever imagine. You have a faithful wife and beautiful children and thousands of people worshiping you. Why are you miserable? This is what you worked for, isn't it? Oh, you fool, don't you know I can't take them with me? I'm dying. You can't take them with you. You worked all your life for this, and you can't take any of this with you. And the king said, no, you are really an ass. You don't understand anything. He said, king said, you are really Mahamurkha. And then the sadhu, who was being called the Mahamurkha, he said, oh, king, you have wasted your entire life. You worked so hard in your life and you have nothing but misery as a result. Take your coin. And he threw the coin at him. Said, you are Mahamurkha. You are the greatest fool. King came to his senses. This is a sadhu. People may think they're fools, but they are the only wise people in society. Everyone else is a fool because they're pursuing a life, a meaningless life. Nothing except for karma can we take with us. Nothing. Unless one has devotion to Krishna, one's life is a waste of time. Even if we have acted piously, still we have to take birth again in this world. We have to take birth in some family, be it in heaven or hell, in some species of life. What is the use of this chewing the chewed again and again, doing the same thing with no attraction? Matirna Krishna Pratukshutova, Vitobi Padyeta Giha Vitana. We're chewing Punakpanas Chavana, we're chewing the chewed again and again and again. What's the use? It's a foolish person. It's chewing that same sugar cane as if you're going to get something out of it. The devotee doesn't waste his time like that, trying to satisfy all of his temporary little material desires. It's like trying to water the leaves on a tree. So there's a nice verse in the 4th canto, chapter 31, text 14, where it states, as pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods, who are parts of the Supreme Personality. It doesn't have to make a separate endeavor. After all, what are we really looking for? What are we looking for? We're looking for satisfaction. We're looking for happiness. Where it comes from is secondary. When I first read the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, there was one verse which stuck out. And it's in the 2nd chapter, I think it's 44, I can't remember. Yavan Artu Pane Savatak Samhutodake. That all purposes that are served by a small pond are automatically served by the great reservoir of water. Similarly, one who knows the goal behind the Vedas, all the purposes of the Vedas are automatically available. Just like Krishna says in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vedeshya Yesha Vasachaiva Danishya Palam Patishtam, that, by performing devotional service, one automatically gets the results of all other processes. Big why? You can say, well, I'm not rich. I'm not living a healthy as life as some are. I'm not famous. I'm not this. I don't have a beautiful family and wife. You may say many things, but that's not the point. The point of all these is to be actually come to the platform of full self-satisfaction in relationship with Krishna, of course. So that is the essence of everything, is to fully satisfy Samsiddhir Haritoshnam. To fully satisfy the Supreme Lord, one is automatically satisfied. Yanatma suprasidati. Only that activity which is unmotivated, uninterrupted, which is devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can completely satisfy the self. Nothing else can fully satisfy the self, only temporarily. So one who is intelligent, he knows that, and he doesn't waste his time trying to. It's like if you know the king. Prabhupada gives the example. If you know the king, you don't need to worry about knowing all the different ministers and this and that. Automatically, by serving the king, one serves everybody else. You may not even have to bother paying your debts if you're very confidential with the king. You may not even have to worry paying your debts to the other ministers, etc. So similarly, one who knows the secret of pouring water on the root of a tree, a whole tree is nourished. You don't have to make a separate endeavor. We have to know how to do it. The sadhus teach us how to water the root of the tree. Or, in an example given here, feeding the stomach. The whole body becomes enlivened if we feed the stomach. So there's another nice verse in the 9th canto, 4th chapter, text 65. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? And this is a great verse spoken by the Lord Narayan to Devasa Muni. I was describing the glories of his devotees because Devasa Muni, out of attachment, pride, subtle attachment, had become offensive towards Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was a real sadhu, even though he was a king, even though he was a householder, he was the real sadhu, because he was only performing those duties for the pleasure of Krishna. Sadhu doesn't necessarily mean one who's in the renounced order as far as sannyasi, although Prabhupada mentions usually anyone can be a sadhu. It's a matter of our consciousness. And we're seeing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. We're performing our duties for the pleasure of Krishna. The sadhu, he has no selfish motivation to try to obtain anything for his own self, per se. Everything's done for the pleasure of Krishna. So Ambarish Maharaj, he was very actually repentant that he eventually, of course, was seen to have offended Ambarish Maharaj and Devasa Maria, And Devasa took it as an offense and tried to kill Ambarish. But the Lord protected his devotees. Those who are actually surrendered unto me, Krishna protects them. Declare it boldly, my devotees should never be vanquished. So the Lord sent his Sudarshan Chakra to kill that demon that was created by Devasa Muni. And then the Sudarshan chased Devasa, who was proud. Pride, this has to be given up. So Devasa Muni fell at Lord Narayan's feet, but Lord Narayan could do nothing. He said, I am under the control of my devotees. I have no desire to enjoy anything without the association of my devotees. There's no meaning. They're more dear to me than my very self. Like this is going on. And how because why? Because they've given up everything for me. They have no other purpose in life, no desire for material improvement. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They don't work for it. So how can I give up such? It's like even in our own dealings, it's somebody like a child who's totally dependent upon us. If you're a parent, you give your time, you give your life actually for the child because they're completely dependent on us. And anybody, no matter who they are, if they confide in us and they take shelter, then you feel indebted to them, which we are. So Krishna is the source of that indebtedness. He feels so indebted to his pure devotees, those sadhus who are preaching his message, taking all risks in this material world. They're so dear to him. Prabhupada writes in the purport, sometimes a pure devotee may have a habit, or is it Prabhupada? Which verse? Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. He said, sometimes a pure devotee may have a habit or attraction for wife, children, and home. Same time, he wants to serve the Supreme Lord to the best of his ability. For such a devotee, the Lord makes a special arrangement to take away the objects of his false attachment and thus free him from attachment to wife, home, children, friends, and so on. This is a special mercy bestowed upon the devotee to bring him back home, back to Godhead. That is the mercy of the Lord. And that devotee in the 22nd chapter of the Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, text 62, Shraddha Shabdi Vishvasa Kahi Shrudida Nishchai Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahai. Shraddha, faith. Usually we hear the word Shraddha. These devotees have implicit faith in the Supreme Lord. That whatever happens to them, they don't mind. They know that Krishna knows what's best, and they just accept whatever arrangements Krishna makes. Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. And they don't see there's any need to do anything else whatsoever. Just engage in devotional service to Krishna. But we need the association of sadhus to learn how we can do that, how we can be fully engaged in the service of Krishna. Firm faith and confidence are called Shraddha. When one engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is to be understood to have performed all of his responsibilities to the material world. That's the original verse, Devarshi Bhutatma Rinam Trinam, which we quoted at the beginning of how a devotee, one who is fully surrendered to the Lord, has no more debts to anyone. We may not be fully surrendered. When one engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is to be understood to perform all his responsibilities in the material world. He has satisfied his forefathers, ordinary living entities and demigods, and is free from all responsibility. Such a person does not need to meet his responsibilities separately. It is automatically done. Fruitive activity, karma, is meant to satisfy the senses of the conditioned soul. However, when one awakens to Krishna consciousness, he does not have to work separately for pious activity. The best achievement. The best achievement of all fruitive activity is detachment from material life. The best achievement of all fruitive activity is detachment from material life. But we're not interested in fruitive activity. But that's the best achievement of fruitive activity. And this detachment is spontaneously enjoyed by the devotee, firmly engaged in the Lord's service. So it's automatically part of devotional service. Vasudeva Bhagavati. There's that verse go. Jana Jasuvarakam Janam Chayadhoitikam. That the one who engages in the devotional service of Lord Vasudeva, that automatically detachment, knowledge and detachment come automatically. One doesn't need to make a separate endeavor. There is an element of knowledge and detachment automatically in the practice of devotional service, but real detachment on not just the external platform, but in terms of giving up one's independent perspective, one's independence from Krishna, surrendering that independence and becoming completely dependent on Krishna. This is surrender. That is not so easy, we can say, but in the association of those who are surrendered, it becomes possible by following their instructions. We may not have the eligibility to engage in pure devotional service, but we serve those who do. And by serving those who do, Krishna becomes endeared to us. He bestows upon that devotee, releases that devotee from his attachments in this world, and awakens an attraction. Shushushroshuradansya Vasudeva Vitaraji Syanmahat Sevaya Vipur Punya Testana Sevanat Shinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidyantak Stoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Satam. The Lord awakens us, purifies our hearts, those who shelter as pure devotees of the Lord, serving the pure devotees of the Lord. The Lord cleanses our hearts of all the dirty things and awakens a taste to hear and chant about Him. In this way we progress on and on to the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure devotional service. When Prabhupada was lecturing on this particular verse of the Bhagavatam, which we just read, of the natures of sadhus, how they're fully engaged in devotional service and freed from all affinity or attraction to the material family and so on. Prabhupada made a comment. He said, we cannot simply give up everything. We will become mad if we try to give up everything without having staunch faith in Krishna. Now he's talking to us. Yet if we find Krishna's association, we can easily give up our opulent positions, our family, business, and everything. However, that requires sadhu sangha, association with a sadhu, a devotee. When we associate with a devotee, the day will eventually come when we can give up everything and become liberated persons, fit to return home, back to Godhead. Okay, so we can see that this mood, Prabhupada himself gave up his position, a little help from Krishna and one or two God brothers. He gave up his position as a grihastha, engaged in business for a higher purpose. Not because his business failed, not because his family was miserable, that may or may not have been the case, but for a higher purpose. Not out of frustration exactly, but to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up, even at a young age, a beautiful young wife, a loving mother, so many devotees and associates in Navadvip. He gave it up for a higher purpose, to preach the message of Krishna consciousness. But as Prabhupada writes here, if we're not ready, and if we don't have staunch faith in Krishna, we'll go mad. And that's what happens again and again and again. False renunciation, immature, premature renunciation, giving up things out of sentiment, making vows, this, that. We have to follow the Vedic system for Vaishnavas also, a cultural system whereby we can continue to cultivate our devotion to Krishna in a situation which is compatible to our present adhikar or our present eligibility, and not try to imitate, but to understand our position and act accordingly with the ultimate goal, pure devotional service. And if we do that under the direction of a pure devotee, follow the proper system, according to what situation we are in life, then by the mercy of Krishna, we can make advancement in spiritual life to the ultimate goal. So next class, we're going to deal with the same verse, but we're going to go more onto the fruit lakshana. Today we've been discussing the Tatastha lakshana, the secondary characteristics of a sadhu, their genuine detachment from the material world, and how a little bit how we can also honestly, sincerely work towards detachment. The devotee is in one sense neither attached nor detached. A pure devotee is indifferent to these things because what is there to be attached to is only Krishna. In the eyes of a devotee, everything is another form of Krishna. For one who is conditioned soul, he sees duality. Mine, yours, this, that, the other. So there is a system to help us to come out of this world of duality and to see things from a transcendental perspective. But we're not on that platform yet. So we have to act within the material world in a way which is favorable to come to that realization. So the sadhus, they give us that favorable practice to help us according. So that's why they give detailed different instructions to different persons, because different persons are in different conditions of life. We're all basically in ignorance, but in different degrees of ignorance. So accordingly, they'll give different religions, different practices are there for different persons. But the ultimate goal is the same, and we have to follow the sadhus in order to reach that ultimate goal. They are the most merciful. Okay, so for today, I'm going to finish there. Is there any one or two questions before the next session? Can you go back onto the screen, please? Oh, I can just switch over. I forgot. Yes. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome. Where are we? Oh my goodness, there's hundreds. Sometimes we hear that we have to associate with a sadhu, but if there isn't a real sadhu around, you can't read Prabhupada's. You can just read Prabhupada's books or the holy name. How important to associate with a living sadhu personally? Well, this is a very regular challenge we all come up with. When the time is right, Krishna reveals the sadhus to us. We follow the sadhu, and then the sadhu, we realize the sadhu there's two ways of associating, vapu and vani. By following the vani of a sadhu, then we can get the vapu of a sadhu. The sadhu has given his vani. So we could say the sadhus have given their vani. And by following the sadhu's vani, then the Lord, if we follow sincerely, the Lord then will get the opportunity. He will reveal the sadhu to us. We'll get the opportunity. We have to become eligible to realize who is a sadhu and to associate with the sadhu. They're already here. They're giving their mercy. We just have to take it. And then we'll realize, now I can associate. Now here's Krishna will arrange it. The sadhu will have the opportunity to associate with the personal sadhu also. We shouldn't be so, I'm not saying anyone is, but we should be careful not to be proud and think that, no one is qualified. Everyone is more qualified than me. Everybody. And so to some extent, we can learn from everybody. We can try to see like that also. This is the mood of the Vaishnava. He sees and everyone else as his spiritual authority, practically, learning through them. In this way, one by step, the manifestation of the sadhu is only to the accordance of our need. And as we become more mature, more and more the sadhu will reveal himself to us. As Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, he will reward them accordingly. So follow the sadhana, follow the siksha, follow the vani of the sadhu, and then the Lord will, by his grace, will get the opportunity to associate with the bapu of the sadhu. Sometimes we hear, could you please substantiate on sacrifice and penance to pay the debts to demigods and sages, how they can be formed today? Yes, this is, some people still think that that's the case. We have to undergo, fasting and then all kinds of austerities, and some people say we have to perform yagyas and sacrifices with thousands of fire yagyas and big things, opulent, pouring lots of oil and plastic and whatever else we use in this Kali Yuga, aluminium, all kinds of untouchable things, but we use them also sometimes in the sacrifices, etc. There's only one sacrifice and one penance for this age of Kali. That's Harinam Sankirtan. By the performance of Harinam Sankirtan, all purposes are served. We're coming on to that the next session more primarily, but that's the answer to that. In this age of Kali, all yagya sankirtanam prayer yujantihi samedasha are fulfilled by the chanting of the congregational chanting of the holy name. We don't need to do any other penance. Follow the four regulated principles as a support for our devotional practices. Of course, those who are serious automatically do that, and a few other things. But primarily the sacrifice is chanting the holy names of Krishna. And as far as the penance is concerned, that will depend on each and every individual situation. But in primarily tolerance, humility, respect for others, living in the association of Vaishnavas, restraining oneself from various sensual activities, and focusing on chanting the holy name. This is the sacrifice and the penance for this age. Where are we now?
Why is God has always achieved that?
Oh, what about this one here?
It's gratitude.
Okay. Why is God always achieved after death? He's not. Right now. Why wait? Why wait? That's just, and some people say that's a post-dated check. It's not like that. It's not like that. It depends on how we see it, you could say. And it is, if we're not preparing ourselves now, then time of death, Christian can do anything. It's a fact that anyone who serves a pure devotee of the Lord becomes very dear to the Lord. But still, why not now? Why wait? We're holding on. Maybe we still have a little independence. We still want to enjoy a few material objects, enjoy materialistic people and so on, and enjoy speculation and enjoy this and that. And we should think, Krishna can do anything, but we should think, if I still maintain this mentality, then what will happen at the time of death? We have to cultivate that now and experience the Lord now. Now, of course, you may say it's the end of a course. At the end of the course, you receive your degree. So you could sometimes say that death is the end of the course, but it's not just a physical death. It's when we have a death that is subtle. And subtle causes of our having a material body. They have to go. Learning to die before you die. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to say, dying before we die. So yes, we can practice now whatever Krishna wants, just to increase our devotion. We can do it. It can be in this life. Life is eternal. Life is not a matter of physical death or birth. Life is eternal. So it's a matter of when we surrender, not after death only. There's not the mood. Maybe that will happen, but that's not the mood of the devotee. That's up to Krishna. We're trying to surrender, or let's say, give up now. In fact, sannyas means civil dead man. We're trying, not the physically dead, but dead in terms of one's entanglement in this material world, one's a desire for material advancements of various kinds. Where are you? Did a slightly different word for sadhu sangha. prasanga. In the verse, can you please tell something about the meaning of pra and the difference of the two types of sanghas by giving examples of them? That's a very nice question. I don't know if I can answer it. I'm just going to look. That pra is not just in the 25th chapter verse, it's in the 20th verse. Prasanga, prasanga, attachment, strong attachment, prasanga. And what's the other one? Can you please tell the meaning of pra? Sadhu Sangha, prasanga, attachment. I'll have to think about that. That's a good, I don't know if it is, huh?
Between Sadhu Sangha and Prasanga.
Yeah, I'm just trying to digest it. Through association, prasangam. So what's the difference between sangha and prasanga? I think that's the question. There's a Sanskrit technique, so I can't say for sure, but I can give the absolute answer to that. But no point speculating on it. We'll look it up, we'll study, and we'll see if it definitely has some more deeper and stronger connotation. When we say sangha and prasanga, I don't know. I can't develop on that right now. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're right on time. Whatever it is, prasanga or sangha, whatever it is, we need to have the association of devotees. So you can look up pra, P-R-A, Sanskrit, P-R-A. Somebody out there probably knows already. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar by any means. All I know is that the more we seriously, internally associate with the Vaishnava or the sadhus, not just physically, there's physical association, but there's in the heart, where we actually hear submissively from the sadhu, where we take it as our life and soul, like Prabhupada took the association of his Guru Maharaj as his life and soul. And thus he was successful in the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness. He gave up everything for the instruction of his spiritual master, always, constantly in the association of his spiritual master. There's a kind of association too, where we come into the association, and while we're there, we're all fired up and we're all serious, we're into it. Then when we go away, we become the same old nonsense that we were before. And there's the real association, fixed association, fixed. Isn't that what it is? Fixed association, where we're fixed. And in any situation, one is in the association of the sadhu, even though physically they're not present, because one is meditating upon their instruction, applying that instruction in one's life, putting it into practice every moment, completely absorbed in how to satisfy the sadhu, how to satisfy my spiritual master. That is real association, not just the external association, but the internal one. So I would understand, without speculation or not, that that's the prasanga, when it really becomes internal, complete. Just like when we associate in the material world, it's not just associate, it goes in and we start meditating on it, we start dreaming of it, we start thinking of it. We can't get it off of our minds sometimes. We don't want to either. It's our inner sensing gratification, meditating on the objects of the senses in their various forms. So association with devotees should have the other effect, because in the association of devotees, we remember Krishna. So that sangha of the association of devotees in the heart, where one is constantly remembering, their instruction means to remember Krishna. It's not just some physical enactment of activity, which may also be the case, but ultimately it means to be focused, remembering Krishna, according to, not some kind of, yes, it can be remembering what we've heard from the sadhu, remembering stories about Krishna, remembering the philosophy, but ultimately it will become absolute. The woman has no other desire than anything else, but to always want to be absorbed in thinking of Krishna. And ultimately it becomes not even a thought of it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else to one's existence other than Krishna. There's no other object of existence in the heart of a devotee other than Krishna, completely fixed. To an association of devotees who are fixed like that, they may not reveal that to us. We may not immediately feel that, but their association will enable us to take to the path which will lead to it. They give us instruction, relevant instruction to lead to that perfection. Okay, well, we're at time is up, and now we have session 2. Are we there? Are we there? Thank you very much, everybody. Hare Krishna. How can we cultivate this attitude? It's not just a gratitude, it's an attitude. How can we cultivate this attitude? Well, that's the process of devotional service, by becoming more absorbed in practical devotional service under the direction of devotees, associating with devotees favorably, those devotees who are cultivating this mood of attachment to Krishna. And ultimately, when we're attached to Krishna, we become detached from unnecessary objects of attachment. Or we learn how to engage those objects in Krishna's service and so on. So, Vasikananda, are you there? Yes. Ready to go. Now, okay, we're all ready to go. Let's go.